Man, I'm so excited for my first date. I was about to give up on the whole thing.
Anch'io sono stranamente attratto dai nerd neurodivergenti.
I don't speak Danish, but I somehow know what you're saying to me.
Allora dimmi qualcosa di special su dit.
Oh, something special? Well, I used to watch a lot of SpongeBob.
Vro quasi ogni singolo millenniologen Z ha visto SpongeBob, e ancora meno sorprendente di un giocator di Dead by Daylight con problemi di carattere.
Oh, well, it's not just that. I saw it in Italian. On DVD. I never saw iCarly because my family didn't have any of the channels. The Italian version is pretty interesting. They censored a lot of iconic scenes. Not again.
Did you know? People born around Y2K love SpongeBob. It's not the most obscure fact you'll find on the Nicktoons iceberg, but there's really something to be said about this show's long-lasting popularity. Whether it be the sea of memes or being one of the two shows keeping Nickelodeon on life support, the sponge is truly eternal. I remember once SpongeBob being compared to Mickey Mouse, and yeah, it's pretty accurate. And about as ethical. But you don't really need me to tell you that. Everything has already been said about SpongeBob. There's not much else to add to the conversation and meme pile. Or is there? You see, discussion on SpongeBob tends to be pretty centered around the US perspective. Which, well, duh, it's an American show. But you also gotta keep in mind that, well, for a show this huge, it was bound to release in other countries. And in many of those countries, fans of the show had a different experience. The story tends to go that the show aired in 1999, had a movie in 2004, had one more decent season the year after, and the rest is a sad and unfortunate history. But in many countries, the series aired months, if not years later. If it wasn't an Anglophone country, it had to be dubbed in the local language. Now, if you saw my previous video, you might have rightfully assumed that I am half Italian. And so I actually grew up with the Italian version of the show. So I know how this guy screams in another language.
Figurati, figliolo!
In general, my experience with SpongeBob is a little weird. I mean, when I first saw the SpongeBob movie, it wasn't on the big screen after years of anticipation. No, it was in some office room in Sweden on my parents' laptop late at night. And right after it ended, a big loud alarm started blasting. Kinda unique.
And the way I found out about the movie was just as weird. It was a DVD by Kinder, yes, that Kinder, which among other things had the SpongeBob movie trailer, and that was my introduction to it. Said other things were masterpieces like the Piramolli, a show with pirates who happen to be snails, or Monster Hotel, where the premise is that it's a hotel run or hosted or inhabited, I guess, by classic horror monsters. To all the monster fuckers that happen to be watching, does this do anything for you?
So that's what we're gonna do today. I'll dedicate some time to a version of SpongeBob most people aren't familiar with. But I think it's still interesting in its own right, even if you're not Italian. So without further ado, let's look at the Italian localization of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Sismologi di bianchi simulosi. Voi, professionisti instancabili del capriccio. L'attesa è finita. La nostra auto è già qui.
Nuova lancia Y, il piacere è tutto mio.
So considering that the cartoon is originally in English, a language Italians aren't necessarily proficient in, they had to go through the process that makes many a weeb crap their tidies, called localization. And to be entirely honest, keeping in mind that it is impossible to make a one-to-one translation of anything from one language to another, the Italian localization is not that bad. Especially when you compare it to the Italian versions of various anime shows the preceding decades, but that's a story for another time. Now, all things considered, the localization is pretty accurate, although some characters had their names changed, or at least their spellings as seen in supplementary and promotional material. So Patrick is without a K, Sandy's name is spelled like this to match Italian pronunciation, Mr. Krabs is sometimes singular, so it's Mr. Signor Krab with an E. Pearl is pretty simple, she's now Perla. Squidward's name is completely different, however, being Squiddy, which I find very cute. And actually that's the case in most localizations, partly because it's a pun on the name Edward. So when translating they had to get creative. Now I know what you're thinking, how did they translate this scene?
Sorry, I don't speak Italian.
Well, it's quite simple really. They just changed it to Spanish.
Mi spiace, ma non capisco lo spagnolo.
Because, well, it wouldn't make sense if he said that he can't speak Italian in Italian. I personally always found interesting when a piece of media has an Italian character, and the Italian localization team just has to deal with it. More often than not, their solution tends to be, well, this character is Italian, let's make them Southern.
Insomma, capito? Fornatura per l'ufficio.
Because if there's one thing that's more Italian than someone who's generically Italian, it's Italians from the South. This is in quite a few pieces of media. My Italian half is originally from the South, so I always found this quite amusing. I vividly remember growing up with Italian television and noticing the sharp divide in the speech I would hear in person than the one in television. My family and friends always had a flair of Neapolitan here and there. Then I turn on the television and it's all proper, standardized textbook Italian. On that subject, while Sandy is still from Texas, she has no accent whatsoever and speaks standard Italian like every other character. Which, I don't know, kinda seems like a lost opportunity. I just think it would have been funny if they did like The Simpsons and gave her a thick Neapolitan accent.
Vabbè, senti a me, vabbè, qua non ci sta nessun limite, nessuna diplomata e cose, vabbè. Tu devi uscire, ti devi salvare, vabbè. Chi se ti hanno chiuso in questo museo qua? Senti a me, vabbè, senti a me, tu devi uscire da qua dentro. Tu te ne fui a che va a mezzo alla strada, tu che femmina, vai a rubare, fai che...
In fact, I have to admit, in general, the Italian localization feels a bit sanitized. Granted, SpongeBob was never a particularly edgy show, but I think what made it so popular and so enduring all these years were all the jokes that were for the parents watching along with their kids. Basically, it wasn't a childish, condescending show. It had a lot of intelligent jokes. In fact, I very vividly remember both of my parents really enjoying SpongeBob. It wasn't just me. But I still feel like a lot of that charm was literally lost in translation. Sure, some of the fault lands on Mediaset, who in these instances was our very own 4Kids. Moments like the ugly barnacle story, the ending changing from everyone died to, oh no, they all just ran away. References like Hold On Jethro are absent. Non-sequiturs like Finland are replaced with some context-appropriate lines.
Tutto bene, Patrick?
Ha fatto strike!
Running gags like I went to college, barnacles, and my leg being completely removed as well. Or take this scene from one of my favorite episodes, Hooky.
I thought you said SpongeBob was taking a break. No one's taken a break at the Krusty Krab since the Chum Famine of 59.
I love how Mr. Krabs references this great famine of the past as a reason why nobody can take breaks at the Krusty Krab. It's a one-off joke, but it has so much character. But, well, in the Italian dub he just says how could anyone take a break if we're full of hungry customers?
Ma nessuno può fare una pausa al Krusty Krab se il locale è pieno di clienti affamati.
Other times it could just be a simple misunderstanding. I love sleepovers becoming a line about waking up late in the morning.
Io al mattino mi sveglio tardi.
Anch'io, nessun problema.
Presumably the translator misunderstood it as oversleeping. Weirdly enough, it's charming in its own way. It does sound like nitpicking, and I'm sure at least one person tried their best, considering Italian sentences tend to be much longer. But considering how iconic many of these moments were to fans, it feels like a lot of the original charm was removed. And what you were left with is still one of the best cartoons of the era. But that extra sauce that was sprinkled on to make a spicy sentence sandwich was removed. And so now it's just a sandwich. Perhaps the most egregious change, though, has to be the moments that are outright missing. Some are relatively minor, like the shower scene from Neptune's Spatula, and weirdly enough, it was reinstated on Paramount Plus, but undubbed.
La tua ricompensa sarebbe fantastica. Oopsie. Now behold, la mia splendida villa d'Atlantide.
But other examples include this whole segment from the episode Suds, and worst of all, the songs, like this montage in Wormy, and yes, Sweet Victory. No, you did not mishear me. The entire iconic climax of one of the most highly regarded episodes of the series is completely removed. But if they removed it, you might ask, what did they replace it with? Absolutely nothing. That's right. The episode just ends abruptly like that on a self-imposed climax. Because fuck you. Thankfully, my parents were smart enough to legally acquire a version of this episode in its native English. So although I couldn't understand a word of it, I was fortunate enough to grow up on the complete, proper version of the episode. Now, if you think Italian fans of the show just accepted this, well, apparently not. It's hard to know for sure what the fan reaction to these changes was. For one thing, because this is the early to mid-2000s, so good luck trying to find any scraps of online discussions about this. And also because at around this time, only a goddamn third of Italy were even hooked up to the internet. But thankfully, against all odds, I managed to find a published letter, written by a fan lamenting over the quality of the localization being inferior to the original. Man, this Italian localization is seriously disrespecting Steven Hillenburg's legacy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Frankie Simp67, and after my rants on the new Teen Titans Go season and the woke remake of Ranma 1/2 went viral, I have decided to do my long-awaited top 11 SpongeBob SquarePants episodes. Quick disclaimer, I have not listed a single episode released after the movie. My meds have stopped working, and of fucking course my number one pick is Pancakes. Number 11, Hooky. I love this episode because I relate to it on a spiritual level as a relapsing ketamine addict.
On a more positive note, I would like to go over the people that had to read the localization and bring the show to life again in the pasta language. The voice actors. Now we all know how legendary and talented the English cast of SpongeBob is. We got Tom Kenny.
You have my full support. Down with big government!
Roger Bumpass.
He's never done anything illegal.
Unless you count all the times he sold dope disguised as a nun.
Carolyn Lawrence.
How rude! And I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing.
Mr. Lawrence.
You turn the page, you wash your hands. You turn the page, you wash your hands. And then you turn the page, and then you wash...
Clancy Brown.
I am your senior drill instructor, career sergeant, Sid. Suck it, nigga!
Bill Fagerbakke.
I'll cut off your nutsack and nail it to my door!
This is an incredible cast with great chemistry. And even after all these years, they still got it. So, does the Italian team do it justice? Well, to be honest, yeah. You can't really top the original cast, but for what this is, it's a great choice of voices. They really killed it. It should be noted, and you may have heard, Italy takes voice acting and dubbing very seriously. There's thespians whose whole career is almost entirely made out of dubbing foreign media. It's kind of like how some voice actors are known primarily for anime dubs. It's kind of like that. Now the script quality, that's another story. But regardless, you can always count on an Italian dub being high quality. Ironically, this is why we can't fucking speak English. We watch everything in Italian. Everything. So who do we have? Well, in the lead role of SpongeBob Me Bob, there's Claudio Moneta. He's known for roles that, honestly, you wouldn't expect. He's lended his voice to the Italian versions of Shadow the Hedgehog, Commander Shepard, Kakashi, Chris Redfield in the later games, Ben Ravencroft, George Joestar, Jack, Tuxedo Mask, and fucking Son Goku?
Ragazzi, qualcuno deve dirmi qualcosa.
Sono il comandante Shepard.
E dobbiamo distruggere i razziatori.
This performance is pretty spot on. It's very squeaky, and while it doesn't copy Tom Kenny's delivery, it gets the same point across. He's doing his own thing. I've seen some interviews of the guy, and he seems pretty chill. He recounts how his father was a fluent Lombard speaker, but could only do so when out the house, as his mother insisted on speaking proper Italian.
Mia mamma è di Bari e mio papà era milanesissimo.
A casa tua che dialetto si parla?
Niente, perché mia madre si arrabbiava tantissimo se sentiva anche solo una cadenza.
Ah sì?
Mio papà però in segreto ci parlava in milanese. Questa forma di rivalsa.
È una sorta di proibizionismo,
sì,
no?
Sì, varcava la soglia. Amore, a mia madre, amore, andiamo fuori a giocare al ballon. Dai, sì. Appena varcava la soglia, subito in milanese.
And that duality is what first inspired him to get into voice acting. It's pretty cool. Patrick, meanwhile, is another heavyweight in his own league. Filling in for Bill Faberbacke, there's Pietro Ubaldi.
No! Dovete smetterla! Ho detto che sono Patrick! Io non sono Krusty Krab!
Patrick, Krusty Krab è il nome del ristorante.
Oh?
Now, Pietro Ubaldi is a legend. According to the Internet Gospel, the Transformers wiki, he is the Italian Frank Welker. And yeah, he has the repertoire to back up that title. Over the years, he's dubbed many characters, including Doraemon,
Pigrone, svegliati!
Meowth from Pokémon,
Il Team Rocket ha fallito di nuovo!
Artemis and Sailor Moon,
Sailor Venus, mi raccomando, perché mi guardi con questi occhi?
and many others. Really, like, if I start listing names of characters he's voiced, we'd be here all day.
Amici, che c'è di più bello che farsi abbracciare da una persona cara? Ma se qualcuno cercasse di farlo in un modo che non vi piace o che vi metta a disagio, questo non va affatto bene.
These are two of the heavy hitters, but the rest of the cast is very good too. However, there is one more I'd like to focus on, and that's the voice of Plankton, Riccardo Ravatti. He's also a pretty prolific voice actor. He played Professor Oak, Magin, Max, Murray. However, he also dubbed none other than Master Chief in the very first Halo. And yes, he sounds exactly like Plankton.
Sì, alla faccia di come guidi.
Io ti manderò sul lastrico! Parola di Plankton!
It's quite fun when an actor's voice or face becomes so iconic that you start to be like, oh, the drill instructor is Mr. Krabs. Oh my god, Batman just killed a junkler.
Ricordate, come sempre, come Molinari. Molinari, chiara, vera, extra, buona.
Now, I'm going to dedicate a whole section of the video to the DVD releases, because, trust me, it's more interesting than it seems. And it's also a core aspect of the Italian release, because, at least for me, this is how I was introduced to the series. Specifically with this. This right here was my very first SpongeBob DVD. And Fools in April was my very first episode. Much like Mazinger in the previous video, I don't quite remember how I got my hands on this, or what compelled me or my family to get it for me. But nonetheless, I still have this vague memory. One specific evening at home, in the dining room, on our quaint fat CRT with built-in DVD reader. That is how I discovered SpongeBob. Some people might not remember, or fuck, even be too young to have experienced it, but if you wanted to watch anything back in the 2000s, your options were either buy the DVD VHS, or just get lucky and catch whatever you want to see on television. The only channel that would air SpongeBob at the time was Italia Uno, and even then it was only once a day at like 4 in the afternoon after Detective Conan, The Simpsons, and whatever magical girl anime they happened to have that week. I'm serious, there were so many, like I don't know what Italy had with magical girl shows. I mean, there were 2 other channels that would air the show, but they were basically paywalled, and didn't actually start airing the show until 2011. So if you wanted to check the show out when it first aired in 2004, you either relied on this one channel and just watch 2 episodes a day, or you just buy the show on DVD and get to keep it forever. In a way, this was kind of special in its own right. Of course, there was the excitement of getting a new DVD and being excited to get a new SpongeBob episode that you've never seen before. But television also had its place. Some episodes I never had on DVD. So when they aired on television, it was really exciting. And yes, you heard that right. SpongeBob first aired in Italy in September 2004. And they managed to get through all of the first 3 seasons by February 2005. That is half a year. While the US was getting ready for the movie that was thought to be the grand finale of a series that had been around for 6 years by then, Italians were just starting to dip their toes in the sponge bath. So, at least in my experience, I mostly saw the show via home media. And I assume many other kids did the same. So what exactly were these DVDs like? You might be used to these kinds of DVDs, but well, in Italy the SpongeBob DVD situation was totally different. The first thing that's odd to say the least is that there's not one but 2 different DVD releases. One was handled by De Agostini, the other by DNC Home Entertainment.
Hey, it's Editing Hybrid here. I said in the video that this release was handled by DNC, which is true, but I found another more interesting name. Another company responsible for these DVDs was Shin Entertainment, which was a defunct company from Rome. Their website, however, has been archived, so I'll have a link to it in the description. And as we can see here, they were selling these DVDs for just under €10, which in 2026 money, it's this. Yeah, things were expensive. Anyway, back to the video.
These 2 releases seem to have happened concurrently in 2005 into at least 2007. The content of these 2 releases isn't any different, it's just the regular episodes, so I've no idea how it ended up that way. The first release by De Agostini is pretty straightforward. It has 27 volumes and makes up the first 3 seasons. Mostly. For some reason, while seasons 2 and 3 were released in their full form, there are 13 missing episodes from season 1. They are Help Wanted, Sandy's Rocket, Squeaky Boots, Culture Shock, Fun, Muscle Bob Buff Pants, Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, The Chaperone, Employee of the Month, SB-129, Karate Choppers, ARG, and Rock Bottom. I have absolutely no idea why these episodes were cut. It's not like they never aired in Italy. They did. They just didn't seem to bother putting them on DVD for some reason. Shame too, because this list has some of my favorite episodes from this season. Beyond that, it's a pretty faithful DVD release, although there are some minor quirks. For some reason, Season 2's episodes 6 and 7 have swapped places. Besides that, it's a pretty comprehensive collection of the series' golden age. Well, sort of. See, I mentioned that there were 27 volumes in this series. Now, I checked other DVDs of SpongeBob from this time, and each disc held up like 9 or 10 episodes. You know how many episodes each of these DVDs held? 4. Yes, just 4 fucking episodes for each disc, which is... okay. We really value physical media nowadays, especially after being inundated by subscriptions and streaming services, but trust me, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. And this right here shows that some companies would needlessly milk a series on DVD for all that it was worth. And you just have to suck up a bad deal, because what else are you gonna do? Pirate it? It's the 2000s! Only the biggest nerds who are online enough to know how to pirate media can even think of doing it! Pay up, swine. Anyway, let's move on to the other DVD release by DNC. This is much shorter, but also much weirder, because it's not like a random assortment of episodes. It does follow some logic like the D'Agostini version, but it also feels more half-assed and chaotic. It's made up of 10 volumes. The first volume contains the specials Christmas Who and Party Pooper Pants. For some reason, okay, we're starting with those. Volumes 2, 3, and 4 contain the first 12 episodes from Season 1. Except for Help Wanted again. I don't know why they left it out in so many versions. I guess they didn't count it as the first episodes and just saw it as the pilot, I guess. Still. However, Volume 5 skips straight to Season 2 with its first 4 episodes, ignoring the entire second half of Season 1. But then Volume 6 skips again to Season 3 with the 4 episodes that follow the first 2. Also, side note, this volume has misinformation that I managed to catch in my research. If you go to the SpongeBob wiki, it states that it has the Sponge Guard on Duty episode. And fair enough, the source does mention that. But you know who disagrees? This hyena's memory. I actually had this DVD and absolutely do not remember this episode being on this volume. So I did a bit of digging and found a picture of the DVD's back. And lo and behold, it doesn't have Sponge Guard on Duty. It has the bully instead. Look, I know it's not much, but just let me have this, please. But wait, there's more. We now get to Volume 7. And what do you think includes? Some more Season 3? Maybe Season 4, given the established pattern? No. We return all the way back to Season 1 to pick up where Volume 4 left off. But just like the D'Agostini release, this skips Sandy's Rocket and Squeaky Boots for some reason. Again. In fact, the remaining DVD releases complete Season 1, but just like the D'Agostini version, they skip the exact same episodes. So to my knowledge, the Italian dubs of these episodes have never been officially released for home video, but at least Paramount Plus in Italy has it, so at least it's not lost media for now. Nonetheless, for being a release of arguably the defining cartoon series of the decade, this could have been better. This makes the American DVD release of Ninja Turtles look like the Library of Congress. What even is the logic behind this? I was going to buy some of these DVDs to look over for funsies, but yeah, these prices, there's also no guarantee they might work, so forgive me.
Ti piace il mio analizzatore? Può identificare gli ingredienti di qualsiasi sostanza.
Alga di mare. 50% mare, 50% alga.
So, what have we learned today, gamers? Not much really. This was just a big ramble about a version of SpongeBob that the vast majority of people can't relate to, but is nonetheless deeply personal to me. Sometimes we forget that some experiences are not universal. We should embrace the fact that some people don't experience things the way many people do be experiencing it. Like take video games for example. Sure, we can look back on a certain console and be like, oh yeah, these were the best games that were ever released on it. But let's be honest, when you're like 5 or 6, you don't know any of that. You don't know what games are good or not. You just pick whatever you like, whatever looks cool to you, whatever you recognize, even if it's a piece of shit. And that same goes for localizations in other languages. Some people experience their favorite medias in different ways. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's embarrassing. But you know what I think about that? If it wasn't the case, and everyone experienced all media the exact same way, that would make for some pretty boring discussions. In fact, this is kind of what I plan to do with this channel. There is so much shit that I grew up with that is just weird and unconventional, whether it be very niche kinds of media or arguably the biggest show of the last few years. We all have these very personal, unique experiences, and no matter how cursed they are, I think people should share them. And that is what I aim to do.